Hello and welcome to the Road to the Garden podcast. I am Matt St. Jean here, and Big East tournament done. Time for the I guess more important tournament, the NCAA tournament, and also another tournament which we're going to be talking about there, the NIT. We're going to be breaking down all of the Big East action this week and some news from the teams who aren't playing because there's always stuff in the news cycle. I'm joined by Tommy Godin as always. How you doing today, Tommy?
A lot better, Matt. How are you?
Pretty good. Tommy, not on our championship game episode, had to rush home after the championship game, but he is back in full force, mostly full force tonight. Yes, and Michael DeRosa. Michael, how you doing?
Doing well. This is the best time of year. None of my teams are involved. Of course, shocker. Didn't see that one coming. But you know what? We power through, and I love talking hoops. So happy to be here.
Yeah, this is the best time of year right here too. It's going to be pure chaos of a weekend in the NCAA tournament. I still haven't finished filling out my bracket, by the way, because I can't make any decisions on what I think is going to happen. My middle of the bracket is utter chaos, and I'm going to be thinking about this for probably at least another 24 hours before I submit something. I don't know how are you guys' brackets looking?
I just did mine on a show right before this one, and it took me about an hour and a half of prep, but I finally got it down. I got my final four. I like it. I went a little bit more chalk than I would have liked, but I think it'll be all right.
I think I've done well enough in the first couple rounds. Couple picks, like I still have TCU over Gonzaga, though. I've been wavering over that one since our previous show.
Even with Eddie Lampkin out?
Yeah, I love Mike Miles. Mike Miles is like my favorite player in the country. So it's like maybe I do that. I'm probably going to switch, and then I really like Gonzaga's road after that. But other than that, and then my championship game I don't like. But the early rounds, I think I'm killing the early rounds. Sets up for my inevitable 16 of 32.
Yeah. You're setting up the fall. It's great storytelling. You get the rise, it sets up the fall, and then eventually you redeem yourself by getting the champion right. I think that's how it works.
I don't think I've gotten the champion right in like 6 years. Since that Villanova team, the dominant Villanova team. I don't know if I've got one right since.
My greatest accolade here is correctly predicting Virginia to win the year they did after losing to UMBC, because everybody was fading them after that. And I think that's the one champion I've gotten right recently.
Do you have your Final Four yet, Michael?
I don't like my Final Four right now.
We gotta hear it.
Yeah, there's one team there are two teams I'm like confident in. They're the other side of the bracket. It's like, no, I don't like any of them. We'll get into it.
Yeah. I have somehow talked myself out of almost every single team in the East region. So I don't really know what I'm going to do there yet, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. And I can't really talk myself out of Marquette, not after what they've done this year. We're gonna be getting into that and the rest of these first round games all on Friday. After a quick word from our sponsor here, me being the one reading it. Yes, we've teamed up with SeatGeek this season to get you the best deals for tickets to your favorite teams. SeatGeek takes the confusion out of buying tickets, and they're here to give you some great deals. Get in on the fun and head over to SeatGeek, download their app, and use code NCAA Hoops Digest for $20 off your first purchase. And as always, this podcast is presented by House Enterprise and in partnership with House of College Hoops. Head over to our site, house-enterprise.com, for more info. Should we just start with the first game on Friday? Want to do it that way?
Let's do it.
All right. 5 Big East teams making the bracket. As we're going through this too, I know we're going to preview the games. I want a little commentary on where these teams kind of got selected because we haven't done this Big East specific. And if there's any surprise or what your thoughts are on that, we'll go through that too. The first game, 12:40 Eastern. This will be the second game of the day on Friday down in Greensboro. Kennesaw State Owls playing against the 3-seeded Xavier. The first time these two teams have ever met. The third time that Xavier has been a number 3 seed. The last time they were 3 seed was also under Sean Miller. They went to the Elite 8 then. Tommy, we'll start with you. What's the initial reaction on Xavier being a 3 seed?
I was a little surprised. I thought they were going to fall on that 4 line. especially how they finished the year. A little lost to Villanova, but I mean, they made the championship game in the conference tournament. Obviously, I don't know how much of that was factored into the committee's decision, but I'm not upset that they finished with a 3. I think they definitely deserve it. I was listening to John Rothstein's podcast earlier. He said Sule Boom and Colby Jones, one of the best backcourts in the country, and I completely agree. Guards win in March, so I'm not upset with them falling on the 3 line there.
I was a little surprised they got a 3. I would have thought either UConn or Tennessee would have jumped them for that 3 spot. Did Tennessee get a 4? Tennessee's a 4.
Tennessee got a 4.
I would have thought either of those teams jumped them. I'm not like mad at it, obviously, because Big East, we stand together, and all. But
you got to support Jaden Taylor's future team.
Iowa State would be such a good thing for Jaden Taylor. That's another conversation another day. But I think he'd excel with TJ Otzelberger. But I really thought they were a 4. I thought in hindsight, you look at it and like the committee didn't include UConn in their little 16 reveal. So we should have known they were lower on UConn, and I would have put UConn above Xavier. But all the same, I think their road is actually it's very nice. So I think they got a very good draw.
Yeah, I tend to agree there, and I think with the sweep of UConn ended up mattering a ton in this seeding. That's probably the difference maker, because if they split, I can't imagine Xavier being on the 3 line. And UConn is probably ahead of them in the seed line. I'm not sure exactly how that would play out. But interesting stuff there. Their first round matchup here with the Kennesaw State Owls. It's the 3-14. You don't see typically a ton of upsets in these. And this is a Xavier team that's ranked, pretty highly there on KenPom. Kennesaw State has not beaten a team as good as Xavier, according to KenPom, all year. However, Xavier has lost to teams worse than Kennesaw State. Not Butler.
Really? Good for us.
I believe, I have to double check this right now, but I believe Kennesaw State, I think, is like 1 spot behind Butler or something along those lines. But DePaul is solidly behind Kennesaw State. And we saw them split with Xavier this year, and DePaul almost beat Xavier in the Big East tournament. So, Tommy, we'll come to you first here. Do you think that Kennesaw State can pull an upset, or do you have Xavier getting through?
Yeah, I mean, for Kennesaw State, Chris Youngblood and Terrell Burden are a very solid scoring backcourt, but they're no Sule Boom and Colby Jones. They take decent shots. They make some threes, efficient field goal percentage, very good. It's not going to be a close game, but if it was, they're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country. They rank 330th in free throw shooting. But I mean, they're the one of the hottest teams coming into March Madness. They've won 16 of their last 18 games in tourney play, before tourney play, but they don't post a top 100 offense or defense. And for those reasons, I'm out on Kennesaw State.
I like Amir Abdur-Rahim, who's the head coach there, is someone to watch for. Like, if you're a little worried about your coach in a year or two, Amir Abdur-Rahim is one of those guys. He is an excellent head coach. He has done an excellent job at this Kennesaw program. I believe they had 1 win like a season 2, maybe 3 ago. He has completely turned this team around. You mentioned those guards, Chris Youngblood, great name, great player, so it works out well.
Great name.
I think they're going to be competitive. I think they're a really well coached team, and what Abdur-Rahim will do is he will switch up defenses, and it will sort of frustrate Xavier, take him out of the rhythm a little bit, and just try to do whatever he can to just get under their skin. I think this game will be more competitive than people are leading on. In the end, I'm picking Xavier. I'm not picking against them, but I think this is a spot where a Kennesaw State team can really make a name for themselves. Like they beat Liberty multiple times. That's a good Liberty team. We'll talk about them more later. That's a very good Liberty team, and they beat them very, very convincingly. So
they've beaten them twice now. That's the best win they have all year, and that's the only top 50 KenPom team that Kennesaw State has managed to beat.
Yeah, granted, both of those wins were at home, but still, I think this Kennesaw team is really well coached. I think Amir Abdur-Rahim is an excellent head coach. I do not think they will win, but I think they're going to be more competitive than many seem to think they will be.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Michael, just because, I don't know, the nature of the situation and Xavier being a little bit shorthanded. Like, we saw how that game went against DePaul, and I wouldn't be shocked if this goes a little bit similarly in some ways, not overall, but in terms of, hey, it might be a close game, but if it's a close game, Xavier's players individually are all way better, and they're a better coached team. And you put that together, and I'm going to expect that they make plays down the stretch in a way that can't be matched by Kennesaw State.
One thing that I just noticed, you remember the whole luck rating from last year on Ken Pom? I feel like you do, Matt. Just a hunch on that one.
I'm a little bit familiar, yeah.
Yeah. Ken Pom has UNC Astros of 15 as the most lucky team. Second, Kennesaw State. I think part of that, could speak to them being well coached and them just winning a lot of those close games. I'm really high on Coach Amir Abdurrahim. I think he is going to be in the realm for a high major job in a couple years. If not this offseason is a little early, but maybe like a year or two in advance. I think he's an excellent coach.
Yeah, when he got there back in the 2019-2020 season, like you said, 1-win team, 1-28, 0-16 in conference play. You turn that around here in year 4, 26-8 record, 15-3. They tied Liberty in the regular season, beat them in the regular season to kind of own that, beat them in the eventual championship game by 1 point, and ended up moving on there. It is an interesting team. I think one of the things I'm looking at is the size matchup. This is a very, very small Kennesaw State team. Jack Nungy, obviously, we know he is immense. He's very big down there, 7 feet tall. The starting big guy for Kennesaw State, who's very good and a very good rebounder, is Damon Robinson, who's 6'8". So they should have a nice little size advantage there. Are we all picking Xavier to advance?
Yep.
All right. I want to take a look at what they could see in their next game. If they win, they'd play on Sunday. We wouldn't find out that time, I don't believe, until pretty late Friday night. I think that's usually when that's released. But you look at the pod they're in. We're not gonna know a little bit about this pod for a minute here, because you got the 11 seed play-in game between Mississippi State and Pittsburgh going on. Winner of that one will play Iowa State, and if Xavier wins, they will play one of those 3 teams. Any preliminary thoughts from either one of you? I'll open this up on what a second round matchup could look like for the Musketeers.
Yeah, I don't know about Jeff Capel at Pittsburgh. I'm a huge fan of his. Colin O'Toole's dad is the associate head coach, Villanova legend Colin O'Toole, the O'Toole Box fan club. Shout out you guys. But yeah, little fun fact there. At Mississippi State, DJ Jeffries, Tolu Smith, outstanding team. I don't know we don't know who's gonna come out of that yet, so I don't want to speak on it too much. Iowa State, they're a good team that finished 19-13. Extremely good on the defensive end. They're a top 10 defensive team in the country. They are going to be missing Caleb Grill, though. He was dismissed from the team, averaged 9.5, 4, and 1.5. They still do have 2 good guards and a dominant big man in Gabe Coucher, Jaron Holmes. And 2 of their last 3 wins have been against Baylor. However, they've won 3 out of their last 10 games. So kind of sputtering coming in, but they have shown flashes of the dominant team that they can be.
Iowa State is an elite defensive team. Same with Mississippi State. Those are 2 of the top 10 defenses in the country. They are Mississippi State's 6th, Iowa State is 8th in Ken Pom, respectively. They're 2 elite defenses. They're not very good offensively, either of them. And, Iowa State has 2 shooters, 2 guys who can consistently make jump shots. One of them isn't on the team anymore. Caleb Grill's gone. It's Gabe Coucher. It is Gabe Coucher. Gabe Coucher is really their one jump shooter. Their point guard, Taman Lindsay, is a very good player. He's a freshman. He's very good, but he's not a good jump shooter. He's really not an option from there. So Iowa State is both those teams are going to be really good defensively, and they're going to pressure Xavier's guards, which they did struggle with in the Big East tournament and have struggled with almost all season. But at the same time, they don't have the offensive firepower to match it with Xavier. A team like Pitt could also win both these games. Like, really, any of these teams could win. It wouldn't surprise me to see any of them there. And Pitt's they're good this year. Jamarius Burton, Blake Hinson, Nelly Cummings, Greg Elliott, former Marquette Golden Eagle. These they got guys. They're a very veteran-led team. They're very old. They're a pretty smart team. They're pretty good on both ends. I think they're better offensively, if I remember correctly. I don't know. I would pick Xavier. I think Xavier is a good draw in that because of the Caleb Grill injury. Iowa State's so much worse. I think Xavier should beat all these teams, but I also think it would not surprise me if those defenses are elite. And Sean Miller returning to Pitt too. Shout out to Mr. Fan Club for bringing that one up. If they do meet.
Yeah, I love that. Jerome Hunter Fan Club, very active in the chat yet again. We love to see it.
Legend.
Yeah, and I think Xavier is going to have a pretty sizable coaching advantage no matter who they face in this pod. I like Jeff Capel, but I think Sean Miller and I'll go ahead. Yeah.
TJ Otzelberger is an excellent coach. He has done an excellent job at Iowa State.
I do think he's fantastic. I think Sean Miller is just better though. I think people kind of forget how good Sean Miller is because he was out of coaching there. He's experienced. He knows what he's doing. It's a very experienced Xavier team. The only thing I'm worried about for them getting out of this pod, there's two things worried about getting out of this pod. One is the depth concern. I think we saw this team just run out of gas on Saturday night of the Big East tournament a little bit, and playing 2 games in 3 days. That could be a factor. The other thing, as we've seen all season, if the shots aren't falling on offense, Xavier can lose to basically any team in the country. And you never know when that's going to rear its ugly head because sometimes it's the defense and sometimes the shots just aren't going in. Obviously, I think you could face some defenses in the second round that could force that and make that happen and get you into a defensive battle. But if they are to lose a game to Kennesaw State, it's going to be because the shots aren't falling and they're getting beat on the boards. Maybe if that ends up happening, we'll see.
Yeah, I have Xavier pretty comfortably in the Sweet 16. I think they're built for the 2 games in 2 days, despite kind of looking a little shabby at the end of the Big East tournament. I have them losing to a team that I have in the Final Four.
Ooh,
but we'll talk about that in our episode next week.
Ooh, teasing that a little bit. I like it.
Teasing it.
That's quite something there. Is the team you have in the Final Four, is that Colgate? Do I have that right?
No, actually. No, it's...
You're missing out. It seems like you've made an incorrect pick is what I'm hearing.
They say 9... True.
Okay.
They say 9 out of 10 bracketologists recommend Colgate.
The Norse, baby. Oh, I just got that, man.
Nice.
Do they still have that big boy on their team? What was his name? He was like 7'2", 350.
Oh.
I have absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
Hang on. I'll get on that. You guys continue to the next segment.
Yeah. So we all feel good about Xavier making it out of that pod, making it to the second weekend. They haven't gotten a tournament win in quite a while here. Like I said, this is their 3rd time being a 3 seed. The last time they went to the Elite 8 with Sean Miller. The time before that, they got bounced in the round of 32. Thad Matta was the coach. That was back in 2003. They beat Troy and then lost to Maryland.
I know that guy.
Yeah. They're getting lazy with the writers. It's just these characters keep popping up. They don't want to write new characters.
Well, it seems like we're going to have some familiar faces back next season, but there's another tease.
Yes. All right. We'll keep it rolling through the afternoon.
My apologies. He plays for St. John Fisher. I got the maroon colors right. He's a 7-foot sophomore. He's 7 foot 360. His nickname is Big Cozy. Average 2.9 points and 2.4 rebounds a game.
I like.
If you ever see his highlights on TikTok, please look at them.
Okay, that's I'm gonna add that after this.
Yeah,
he falls down in one, gets up and drops a dime right underneath.
Oh, I've seen this.
Yeah.
Buffalo, yeah. What a legend.
What a legend.
Big Cozy.
That's how Big Cozy.
I love it. Not in the NCAA tournament, unfortunately. We got to get him there somehow. That man
they'll
needs
go
to
from
see
D2 to
primetime.
D1 or wherever they are, and then they'll play in the tournament and beat somebody. Somebody's losing to Big Cozy. It's just a matter of who.
Everybody's losing to him. We're going to move on through the afternoon here. By the way, that Kennesaw State Xavier game is on True TV. So that's your broadcast on that. This will be the one time this year you watch it that isn't from Practical Jokers. So go find where True TV is on your guide right now. And we'll move on to the next game. We got 4 of the 5 Big East games are in the early afternoon slot on Friday in that window, which is crazy. Next one's 2:45 Eastern on CBS. Vermont, 15th seeded Vermont against 2nd seeded Marquette. This is in Columbus. Very interesting game here. Vermont kind of plays that they're a very slow team. Very good rebounding defensively. One of the worst teams in the country at offensive rebounding. That's what stood out to me looking at them. You don't see a 15-0 for 2 that often. Michael, do you think we're going to have it happen here?
No, I'm fairly confident that. I don't know. I like this Vermont program. I think John Becker's a very good head coach, and I like that Dylan Penn, who's their point guard leading scorer, he was at Bellarmine last year, so he should have made the tournament last year. Got robbed of it by the NCAA. He's got his chance to play. I think he deserves that, and I'm happy that he has it, but I don't see them beating Marquette. This Vermont team isn't as dominant as Vermont teams in years past. They've been like a dynasty in the America East. They've been a consistent team in the tournament, but UMass Lowell gave them a scare and like almost took over the conference tournament and like the regular season title. They didn't, but this is like the most comparable it's been in a while. I think this Vermont team isn't as good as years past, and I think Marquette absolutely throttles them.
I like the word that's a good word in this circumstance. I mean, this is a Vermont team. To echo what Michael was saying, I like the program. It's a team that hasn't lost since January 11th. But I'm sorry, the new friend of the program, Jake Marsh, big Vermont guy. This one's going to get ugly. They're barely a top 100 offense. They're number 99, and they're 150 plus defense. They have the 251st ranked strength of schedule in the country. So they just beat up on Cupcake since January 11th. This one's going to get ugly because Marquette is not a cupcake.
Yeah, it's going to take kind of a miracle here, I think, for Vermont to do this. In theory, I think they can. I mean, they slow the pace down and they shoot well. If everything goes right, that's kind of what you're looking for out of an upset team. But that's really all I got for Vermont in this one. This should be the Golden Eagles by a comfortable margin, I think, which would send them into a second round game on Sunday against either Michigan State or USC. I think it's one of the more compelling 7-10 matchups out there. I've struggled with this one for a while, not quite sure who I should pick. Who do you guys think who do you guys think comes out of that and faces Marquette here? And how do you think Marquette will do against them? Michael, we'll start with you.
I like Michigan State. Michigan State is a team that is kind of putting it together towards the end of the season. I like this roster. It's fairly well balanced. You can get a Hauser versus Marquette game too, storyline. Shout out, revenge game. I think Tyson Walker is one of the best guards in the country, averaging 14 points a game, a very efficient shooting, good setup man. AJ Hogard is another legit guard. I think they have the pieces, and it's going to be a decent guard matchup. Like you're giving me like Cam Jones, Tyler Kolek versus Tyson Walker, AJ Hogard. That's fun. That is content right there. That's going to be a fun game, and I don't love this USC team. Boogie Ellis is a great player. Drew Peterson, awesome. Other than that, they don't have a ton of guys who really scare me, and I don't really love Andy Enfield as a coach. So you're giving me Tom Izzo versus Andy Enfield. I'm taking Tom Izzo, and I think Marquette just has enough pieces to overwhelm Michigan State. Michigan State they're getting better, but still, I don't think they're on Marquette's level. I really like this draw for Marquette.
Yeah, I have to agree there. I do like this USC team a little bit more than Michael, but I still picked Michigan State. USC is just not deep at all. They go 6, maybe 7 deep. Boogie Ellis and Drew Peterson, they average 18 and 14 respectively. They're bucket getters. They have a unique brand of defense too, where they force teams to shoot a lot of threes. So if they can get Michigan State out there, that could be an interesting storyline. They're very solid from inside the arc, top 50 offense and defense. They're just solid all around. They're a solid team. That's why they're a 10 seed. But this MSU team, they're battle tested. AJ Hogard, he's a great facilitator. Number 4 team in the country in shooting threes. And they're top 41 offense and defense in the country. I really like this MSU team. Like I said, they've been through adversity. They've been battle tested. I'm taking the Spartans in this one.
Interesting. Very interesting. And I heard your explanation, and I'm kind of buying into that, Tommy. I don't want to be, because I'd like to see Marquette get through here. I think Marquette getting back to Madison Square Garden would be awesome for the conference. And
No, I'm taking them over
fantastic.
USC, not Marquette.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry. I should have cleared that up. I have Marquette winning.
Okay.
My apologies.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious about the potential Michigan State Marquette matchup just because of how Michigan State shoots the three ball so well and they pass well. Like, that's one of those things that maybe can get to a Marquette defense that has been up and down this year and is playing better, but has been up and down over the whole season. I still have a hard time picking against Marquette going back to MSG and getting to the Sweet 16 here.
Yeah, Marquette's just too good.
Yeah, I really like this draw for Marquette. Like, just even overall, like Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final 4. I think this region really opens up for Marquette. I really like this draw.
Especially because the 1 seed in the region is a Purdue team that we already know that they can play with. And we've already seen that game this year. It was on the road, and it was a 2-possession ball game. So if that's kind of the best team Marquette can face in this region, they can beat every single team.
I will add, I'm also picking against Purdue in the second round, so I think it opens up for them.
If you listen to the show yesterday, yeah,
that close to doing it as well.
Doing it.
So we all got Marquette going through.
Yep.
Yeah, through the first 2 rounds, yes.
Into that second weekend, which could potentially set up a rematch with another Big East team, which we'll be getting to at the end of the segment here. Before we get to that, though, our first 11-6 game of the day in the Big East, NC State against Creighton. This one is on TNT at 4 p.m. Eastern. How do we feel about Creighton getting a 6 seed?
Go ahead, Michael. Sorry, my laptop's completely frozen right now.
I don't know. I think it makes sense for Creighton as a 6. I think A&M was below them. I think A&M got kind of screwed. So I don't know. I see Creighton as a 6. I think it makes sense. It would not have surprised me if Creighton got a 7. So actually, I think they got a decent draw, all things considered. I think that they've done the Big East pretty well. We'll get to a team later that I think got a rough draw, but I think they've done the Big East well up to this point.
Yeah, I'm back on my end. I also thought that they were going to be a 7. I was pretty convinced they were going to be a 7, but to see them at 6 is a little. I'm more surprised that they're at 6 than Xavier was at 3. But this matchup with NC State, it's going to be a big match. This NC State team can play with any team in the country. I mean, NC State in this game, they could win by 30 or they could lose by 30. No joke. Their defense isn't great. Terquavion Smith and Jarkel Joyner, great backcourt. And DJ Burns is a big, big boy. They struggled with Omar Ballo from Arizona early in the year. A lot of similarities in their games. Yeah, that's going to be a good first-round matchup for Creighton.
I think this region as a whole, or this little like subset region as a whole, elite guard play. I mean, the guards at this region are super high level. I love Ryan Nembhard's game. I've made no secrets about it. I think he's an excellent player. And Terquavion Smith could have been a first-round pick last year. He chose to come back. Jarkel Joyner, I saw their backcourt. They played against Butler in the Battle for Atlantis. Those are 2 of the quickest guards in the country. They can create shots against anybody. They are elite. I think they're going to take a decent amount of mid-range jumpers with the way Creighton defends. I think they're going to take some tough jumpers. They can hit them, though. Like, they definitely can hit them. And I think Creighton wins the battle in the front court. Like, do you mention DJ Burns? Problem with DJ Burns is he's undersized. He's a big boy, but not like a tall boy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
You say tall boy?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, that's.
Words banned in the St. Jean household. You see, somebody asked if we could have Matt's laptop as a prize for our bracket challenge.
So if somebody gets a perfect bracket, yeah.
There's an incentive.
Yeah.
What was I saying? Guards, right. I like guards. I think NC State wins in the front court. I think Kalkbrenner, I think, is going to be able to shut down DJ Burns. And Jack Clark has been a revelation for this NC State team. He's been like, they needed a wing. He has stepped up into that role. He's not Arthur Kaluma. He's not.
I think this is – I got to see a little bit of NC State just from back in the non-conference play. I still don't know how much I trust this team. I think it's the big thing. I think Creighton is not a perfect team, but it's just rock solid. And this doesn't feel like a game the Blue Jays end up dropping. Maybe the next round. I think the next round could be a tough one. I know we talk about 11-6 upsets. On paper, I think this has a ton of upset potential. In practice, when you think about the coaches and Greg McDermott and all that too, I can't see. This might be close, but I can't see Creighton losing it.
Yeah, I think Creighton's defense is just so much better than NC State's defense. I think that's going to be the factor here that gives them the safety blanket of that 11-6 upset.
I think the guards are comparable. I would lean towards NC State's guards, and that's no disrespect. I love Ryan Nemhardt's game. I think Jaquavon Smith's first-round pick. Like, he's that good. And then next round, we'll hint at it now. Baylor's guards, oh my goodness. You give me those three guards over anyone in the country. Like, I'm looking, Keontae George is going to be a first-round pick. LJ Cryer and Adam Flagler, say goodbye. Those guards, incredible.
Yeah. I want to add one other note on this one before we talk about a potential matchup with Baylor there, in all likelihood, in the second round. This is an NC State team that does not draw fouls, like, at all, and it's a Creighton defense that doesn't foul. And I feel like if you're playing Creighton, you want to get them into foul trouble if possible, which is hard to do, but if you want to do that to make Greg McDermott go to his bench. And NC State's not going to be able to do that, I don't think, unless something really weird happens here. And yeah, so that's are we all in Creighton here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took Creighton.
Yeah. All right, let's look at a second round matchup. And this is out in Denver, by the way. This is where they're playing those. It would either be Baylor or UC Santa Barbara coming out of the other side of this pod in the 3-14. I'm assuming we're all thinking Baylor wins that one.
I like the Gauchos, but yeah, I got Baylor.
If UCSB got like a different 3 seed, if they got Xavier, they would have given Xavier a scare. I will say that very confidently. But I don't think they have them. I think they just don't match up well with Baylor. I don't think they do.
Yeah, Michael was talking about the guards, Keontae George, LJ Cryer, Adam Flagler. I mean, Baylor's just stacked with household names like Jalen Bridges, Flo Thamba, you name it. Anybody can get a bucket. And it's the number 2 offense in the country for a reason. I mean, they had a disappointing end of the season, losing to Iowa State twice, but this is a Baylor team with a lot of the same pieces. Not a lot of, but a solid core of the same pieces they won a national championship with coming back. So this is a scary Baylor team.
And I think this sets up, if we get to 3 versus 6, the Baylor versus Creighton, this is kind of the matchup of two teams that have 1 or 2 seed talent, or we thought could be a 1 or a 2 seed in this tournament, who underperformed due to various reasons. In Baylor's case, I think a lot of that's just being in the Big 12 and having to deal with all those teams every single night. And Baylor has that loss to Marquette, too, on the resume. But outside of that, I mean, this is a very good Baylor team, a very high-level Baylor team, and a Creighton team that I think has played at around that level when fully healthy, if you exclude some of the Kalkbrenner stuff. This seems like a very even matchup. I feel like Baylor would be favored here, though, and for pretty good reasons.
Yeah, I also like Baylor. And it's not a slight against Creighton. I asked Ryan Nemhart. Geez, I can't talk right now. Ryan Kalkbrenner.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday is right. Good Lord, what was that? I asked Ryan Kalkbrenner after the game about the fatigue level, and he said everyone goes through it. It's the same story every time. But, I mean, what's that, 2 games in 3 days against a Baylor team who's deep stacked. Everyone's good on Baylor. It's a tall task for this Creighton team. And, again, that's no disrespect to them. There could have been they were preseason top 10, so top 15, whatever.
This Baylor team has a very high floor, very low ceiling because, in my opinion, their offense is awesome. You mentioned number 2 in the country. It's there for a reason. I think it goes a little too ISO heavy at times. Like, it feels a little like your turn, my turn. Here you go, George, here's your possession. All right, Flagler, your turn. ISO, go score. And I don't know. I feel like they're going to have some trouble with Kalkbrenner. Jonathan Chamachachu was back. They really didn't have an interior presence until he got back. So maybe he just kills him on the glass. I don't think that happens. I I like Creighton in this matchup. I don't know. I could see them losing by 30. It would not surprise me if Creighton gets blitzed and I look like an idiot. But I think Creighton matches up kind of well here too. I think you can get Baylor's offense kind of going in like some rough spots. Like Iowa State has laid out the game plan on how to beat this team. It's just a matter of can you follow it, and we'll see. I feel like I also like that the matchups are kind of similar in that both teams are dominated by guards. You don't have to like prepare for a guard one day, then the next day you're going up against like Drew Timme. It's like good luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I don't know. I like the optimism on Creighton, but I would take Baylor in this one. I think the lack of depth for Creighton is an issue for me, and I also think I know we've seen Creighton get really unlucky this year with the one-score games. I think part of that is the lack of depth. It's hard to execute at the end of the game when every guy on the floor has played 35 plus minutes and everybody's a little bit tired and you don't have a spark plug off the bench. I mean, that's an X factor here for Creighton possibly, is that if they get something out of the bench that they haven't gotten all year in any one of these games, that alone can be what sends them into another round against any team in here. If Mason Miller comes in and knocks down two triples for them, that can be the difference between winning and losing in this game. I'm just not going to count on him doing it when we haven't really seen that all year.
Well said, Matt.
Thank you. So what was the split on that? How many of us have Creighton going through to the Sweet 16?
I think it's just me.
Just you, 1 and 2. Okay. All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. Wouldn't surprise me to see him there. I think we're probably just going to need something a little extra. We will say if they play UC Santa Barbara, if that does happen, are we assuming Creighton gets through that?
Yeah.
Didn't they match up in the tournament like 2 years ago? And it was a very close game. I thought it was the 5-12 game when Creighton won and made the Sweet 16 before they lost to Gonzaga.
Let me double check this. Yeah, it was the 12-5 game. 63-62. Creighton won that one.
I picked UCSB in that one. I know for a fact. It was a late game, wasn't it? It was like the latest game at night.
No, this is 3:30 p.m. Eastern. So, almost. You're within 6 hours, Tommy.
Yeah, it's close enough. Count it. He's right. He's got it.
Relative. Everything's relative.
It was the late game somewhere. I mean, so
was
that was tipping off at 11 o'clock at night somewhere.
Just not where they were playing.
No. So yeah, we could potentially get a tournament rematch there. I would assume Creighton gets through if Baylor gets upset. Should we move on to our fourth little pod here?
Let's do it.
Next one. Oh yeah, this is prime Michael DeRosa hours on this one. UConn and Iona up in Albany. A little Rick Pitino action. 4:30 Eastern on TBS. 13-seeded Iona, 4th-seeded UConn. I think we already talked about the UConn seeding thing. Anything you guys want to add there about them being a 4-seed, maybe not a 3-seed?
I thought they should have been a 3. But that's all I got.
Very on brand for Michael here.
Rick Pitino update. Yeah, what do you guys think about this, Tommy? We'll start with you. What are your initial thoughts on this one?
The top 80 offense and defense this Iona team is. Nelly Jr. Joseph. Again, we're just going through some amazing names here in this little preview. I want to give Michael credit. Jonathan, I'm not even Chamachachua.
Close enough, yeah. I think you got it.
You got that.
Are we gonna count it?
Yeah, count it.
Yeah, heck of a job on that pronunciation. Nelly Jr. Joseph, he's from Nigeria, 6'9", 240. He's a beast. Walter Clayton is the second best free throw shooter in the country, shooting 95% for Iona. It's a team that hasn't lost since January, but they also haven't played a top 25 team. I think UConn is battle tested. They've went through adversity and came out the other side playing well throughout the middle of the season when they went through that lull. I think this is a bad draw for Iona, and UConn just in general has a really bad draw, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, what do you think, Michael?
I wanted to pick Rick Pitino so bad in the tournament. I really did. Like, if you gave me Virginia versus Rick Pitino, oh my goodness, back up the brink truck, super lock. That they are not losing that game. Rick Pitino was coming out on the other side.
I picked Furman against Virginia, by the way.
I did too.
Me too. Hey, oh God.
Oh, that's not good.
Changing mine.
Walk in the other way, boys.
Oh, shit.
I thought I had like a really sneaky pick. Oh my god.
That comes up yesterday. I'm like, Furman, I got this. Yeah, you know what? That's mine yesterday.
The Paladins, baby.
But
Lock 'em
I don't
in.
know, man. I really like this Iona team. Like, I really do. Like, that backcourt, Walter Clayton and Danish Jenkins, you could put those guys on a Big East team and they'd fit in. They're that good. They are elite players. I really like this Iona team. I think Slick Rick's got a squad. The problem with them is they're not the biggest. Tristan Newton's like legit 6'5", Walter Clayton 6'2", Danish Jenkins 6'3". UConn's just bigger. UConn is really long and they're really athletic. And I think that's the reason, like, they're mid-major kryptonite. I don't think a team like Iona can compete with them, though. If I'm Danny Hurley, I'm looking for my first tournament win, and I got to go against one of the 5 best basketball coaches walking this earth, a guy who is probably going to be in the Big East next year. Yeah, I don't want that. If there's one guy I didn't want, it is Rick Pitino. That man can coach. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think there's 2 parts of this game that are interesting to me. And I think where we've seen UConn have issues in the tournament in the past is when you kind of have an opposing guard who can make shots even though you defend them well. And I think Iona can do that with Walter Clayton there. And they got guys who can hit the free throws too. So if you foul them, Iona will make you pay at the line. And that's been an issue for UConn at points this season. The flip side of this, though, Iona does not rebound defensively. And UConn is one of the best, if not the best, offensive rebounding teams in the nation. This feels like even if Iona's defense clamps down and forces misses, UConn's going to get so many high-quality second chances. Because that's going to be Adama Snogo or Andre Jackson getting the ball right underneath the hoop, Alex Caravan right there, and that's not a good recipe. Iona's going to lose if they give up rebounds, and I think they're going to give up a lot of rebounds in this one. So I think they keep it close for stretches, but the last 10 minutes maybe get a little bit ugly. And I said this yesterday, but I feel like this is more interesting from a story perspective than an X's and O's on-court basketball perspective.
One saga to add to the Rick Pitino update, as I just noticed looking through the roster, yes, I added that comment, is Quinn Slazinski's on the team. He is a transfer from Louisville who came over to Iona. He has been out of the season almost all year long. And in like a little interview, like with the press, they were asked like what guys, like who might transfer, whatever. And he said, Slazinski's name came up. He's like, yeah, he wants NIL money, so he's going to leave. So if you want a guy who's going to follow Rick Pitino wherever he goes, there's the Rick Pitino update.
I love it, Michael. I love it. Let's look, and we're running longer than I had budgeted, so we'll get through this a little bit quicker here. But possible second round matchups here for UConn. And you guys mentioned you don't like the path for the Huskies at all. The 5-12 is St. Mary's VCU, which I think is, I don't know, that's a pretty evenly matched 5-12 as far as I've ever seen. Shout out to Everything College Basketball in the chat, by the way. Great podcast they do over there. Who do you think gets through that 5-12, and how would they match up with UConn if they get through? Michael, we'll start with you.
I think this is a very popular upset pick. I think a lot of people are going to be picking VCU. If I'm UConn, and this is my pick, I would prefer to play St. Mary's. It's kind of crazy to say you prefer the 5, who is the much better team in Ken Pom. I do really like the St. Mary's team. St. Mary's, one thing they've struggled with, and why I didn't pick them over Gonzaga in like their conference tournament, was because they struggle with length and athleticism. What does UConn have? Length and athleticism. That is their big strength. I think it is a horrible matchup for St. Mary's. St. Mary's was a team a lot of people are talking down on, and I think they're really good. Aiden Mahaney is incredible. Incredible. That kid is a star. And I like Logan Johnson. I like their backcourt. I'm going to take them to beat VCU. That being said, if VCU can pull off the upset, I think VCU could beat UConn. I think they match up really well. They are very physical. They're a very tough team. Mike Rhodes is in that Shaka Smart tree of that like havoc, like intense style defense. VCU, that's where Shaka's from, so it makes sense. And I think they could cause UConn real problems. Like that backcourt, you are not going to have a fun day going up against VCU. That team they are not scared of anybody. Anybody. I think St. Mary's beats them, but if VCU gets through, I might even pick VCU to beat UConn if they get through. But I think UConn would kill St. Mary's. Kill them.
Tommy, what about you?
Michael just did a bang-up job there. I'm going through my notes
Stole
here.
all your points.
Yeah, I don't have too much to add. I am a little bit higher on this St. Mary's team. They are a very good defensive team and very good at keeping teams off the glass. They get a lot of steals, and they have a top 40 offense. I mean, they got blown out by Gonzaga in 2 of their last 3 games. You see what happens when they play a potent offense. But this St. Mary's VCU game, like Michael said, it's going to be a toss-up. I have St. Mary's moving on. But yeah, I have UConn demolishing them.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you guys. I think the fact, I don't know, I look at these teams are good, but I think with UConn's athleticism, they're not going to play a team as athletic as they are out of this pod, even with the athleticism that some of those other teams bring. And I think that really helps them, especially as an offensive rebounding team. I think they should be able to get out of this pod and to the Sweet 16. I think it would be incredibly disappointing if they don't.
I think VCU is the team that could. I think I would not be surprised if VCU beat them. I think it is a bad matchup for UConn.
I have a hard time with the A10 this year. I'll tell you that much, because it feels like the A10 has underperformed against other conferences so badly that I just don't trust it.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I can't deny it. They have.
It took for VCU. So Dayton going ice cold to even win that championship game. So they could do it.
They were good.
You know, worst teams have beaten UConn, but we'll see. We'll see how that breaks down. I think the only team I haven't picked to go to the Sweet 16 here in the Big East is Creighton, just because of that Baylor draw. So the part of that's all these teams should be favored based on where they are to get there. We all like them. Let's talk about one team that isn't favored in when it comes to a first round matchup. What's probably the most compelling of all of these, and that's why it draws the 7:00 slot in the CBS window, and that's Kentucky Providence. Bryce Hopkins going against his former team here, where he transferred away from, and a really interesting matchup between these teams. A Kentucky team without a tournament win since 2019. Coach Cal on, I don't know if the hot seat is the right word, but he's come under a lot of criticism there at Kentucky, and that's only going to increase if the player that he recruited and then let walk away ends up knocking him out of the tournament, and they still don't have a win since 2019 in this 11-6 matchup down in Greensboro. Obviously, the Friars get the 11 seed, the last 11 seed before the play-in games. So we talked before last week of the season about, is Providence a lock? They were a lock by the slimmest of margins. They barely got that, but they did. Michael, you're back. We'll just have you jump right in here. Kentucky Providence, early thoughts.
Perfect. Yeah, right live. Yell at the roommates, get back, do your job. I hate this matchup for Providence in every I think they get destroyed. I do not think this game is even remotely competitive. Oscar Tshiebwe versus Ed Croswell. Ed Croswell's been very good this year. He has been very solid. He has not faced a big like Oscar Tshiebwe. Oscar Tshiebwe's on a different level. Just straight up. He is a force. He's dominant. And the one way you really beat this Kentucky team, put him in ball screens. You put him in ball screens a ton. Providence doesn't really do that. That's not something they really do. They're more like, ooh, that's not good. Oh, skittle me timbers. That's not good. And I hate this matchup in so many senses. Not to mention, I think you have Cal. Look, Bryce Hopkins is a different player than he was last year. That is undeniable. He's a very different player. That being said, I've got guys in that locker room that have guarded him every single day and that know his tendencies. If I'm Coach Cal, I know his tendencies. Everything about this matchup screams Kentucky in a steamroll. And I think it is. And frankly, I think it's Ed Cooley's last game.
Ever?
That's a Providence Friar.
There it is.
Is that a threat, Michael?
No, it's just
he's gonna make sure it happens.
And I want to see what Matt's reaction to that one is. You know, it's an opinion.
You know what? We're gonna see what happens. So you're predicting this is a really, really tough night for the Friars down in Greensboro. Tommy, do you agree with that assessment?
I do. For time constraints, I'll keep it short, but Tshiebwe and Jacob Toppin present a whole lot of issues. Cal said just a couple hours ago that he hopes that Xavier Wheeler can practice Monday through Wednesday. He's been out for a little bit. He's hasn't been great this year. I know. I see Michael's face, but he can be a valuable contributor here down the stretch, even if it is coming off the bench. To have that come off the bench would be decent. Extremely good offensive rebounding team. They got some shot blockers. I really like Kentucky as well.
This is, I think, a really interesting matchup for Providence in that in some ways I think it's really similar to the one they just had against UConn, where it's the slightly shorter but dynamic big on the inside. You go from Adama Snogo to Oscar Shepway. You have to deal with that. It feels like Kentucky feels like UConn light in some ways. Like they're going to kill you on the glass, offensive rebounding. They're going to play through that. They just haven't been quite as good around that spot as UConn has been all year long. And that's what makes it interesting, because we just saw Providence play UConn close and dominate down the final 12 minutes of the game, just too little too late. We saw Providence beat UConn this season. So I don't think this is one the Friars will get blown out in. I think you brought up a great point, though, Michael, in knowing the tendencies of Bryce Hopkins. I don't know. I really feel like this is a toss-up. I really feel like this can go either way. And that doesn't mean it won't be a blowout, but it's going to depend on what Providence team we see, what Providence defense we see. I think the Providence defense played the best basketball it has in a month in the final stretches of that Big East tournament game. If you get that defense and Ed Croswell is able to just be competitive with Oscar Shepway, I think the Friars can absolutely win this game. That said, they actually have to do that. Otherwise, this could get rough for them. It's also a Kentucky defense that isn't great. And they block shots well, but that's an area where Ed Croswell has been really good at not getting blocked and getting his own offensive rebounds and all that. I like Noah Locke here as somebody who can take some mid-range shots and hit them. He has done that in stretches this season and looked really good. And I think we see less Jared Bynum. I'm guessing we see he was not a part of that comeback late against UConn. So if we see less Jared Bynum, they're going to rely on some of the young guys. I'm going to say Providence gets through this. I like the matchup. I think we see a motivated team come out, and I'll take the Friars.
Wow. Yeah, I'm probably more confident Kentucky wins this game than I am Xavier beats Kennesaw State. And I think Xavier wins that game often. I would love to be wrong. I would love to see Providence win. Providence Twitter would be awesome. I think they get steamrolled.
Here's the thing. If the Providence team that played against Seton Hall comes out in this game, it won't be decided by less than 40 points. And I think that's, yeah. I've never seen an Ed Cooley team come out flat so many times in a row, and I'm not going to bet they usually turn it around. Ed Cooley usually gets something out of his guys. So I'm not going to bet against him in a situation like this. I think they at least cover. I don't know what the spread's going to be, but
4.
Oh. That's a closer spread than I thought it was going to be.
I would agree.
Yeah. This is honestly one, if you're betting, I would stay away from.
Yeah. Moving on to the next game, I don't think it matters who wins, Kentucky or Providence. I love this Kansas State team. Michael had his affection with Miles earlier from TCU. I have mine with Keontae Johnson from K-State, comeback player of the year. I love K-State. Marquise Noel, he's like 5'8", whatever he is, the number 2 assist rate in the country, top 20 defense. I have K-State rolling over whoever they get in the next round.
Do you have that too, Michael?
I think Kentucky could present them some problems. Kansas State. I want Kansas State to win that game for sure. I mean, you mentioned Keontae Johnson passes out on the court 2 years ago with Florida, takes a chance on him, comes back. The NCAA would give him a decent insurance plan. He's like, no, I want to play the sport I love. And Jerome Tang gave him a chance. It's a great story. I want Kansas State to make the Sweet 16. Sorry, Matt. It's so hard to root against that story. It really is.
Yeah, it is. It is a great one. I don't know. I'm not sold on. I really like this Kansas State team, but I think it's a 50-50 here in the next round against probably either one of these opponents, depending on what team we get. I don't know. I like whoever wins the Kentucky Providence matchup to end up making it through to the Sweet 16. I don't think Kansas State's a bad team. It's going to be down in Greensboro, and I expect it'll be kind of a road game for Kansas State in the next round, regardless of who they're playing. And I think that's going to help. And not that they don't know what it's like to play on the road. Like they play in a tough Big 12, but I think that's just a tough environment for them to play in a tough situation. I think this is a tough draw for Kansas State to have to be in this situation. Because this is a Providence team that like 3-4 weeks ago, we were talking about being a 5 or a 6 seed and being in the Kentucky spot. And they've faded, but they have the talent and the ability to play to that level. So if you get that game out of them, I wouldn't want to be there. I hate this for Kansas State because I love this story. I do think they get by Montana State, but I think I have the Providence-Kentucky winner making it to the Sweet 16. I got Providence. That sets up the Providence-Marquette matchup at Madison Square Garden. Give it to me. I need it.
You're just manifesting shit at this point.
I want it. More Big East basketball at the Garden. I need it to happen.
When bias meets manifestation, that's what you're watching right now on this podcast.
I'm visualizing.
That's it.
I'm gonna go get some ayahuasca and then go in a dark room for 48 hours and pull an Aaron Rodgers.
That's what you do.
Did you guys both have Providence losing this one?
Yeah.
Yep.
No faith in the Big East. We get 11-6 upsets every year, and
I took every other Big East team to make the Sweet 16, and I felt like such a homer. Like I really did when we were going through it. I'm like, I'm such a homer. And then I'm like, wait, I just realized Kentucky is maybe my favorite pick of the first round.
All right, we'll see how it plays out. This will all happen on Friday, so we'll know probably by around 9:30 Eastern Friday night how right or wrong we are on the first round of picks. Let's talk about the other tournament we got coming up, the nationally invited tournament, the NIT there.
Hell yeah.
Tommy Gooden's Villanova Wildcats made it. Seton Hall also in this tournament. We got 2 games Tuesday night, late Tuesday night, 9 and 11 p.m. Eastern for these. Villanova at Liberty is the first one there at 9. Any preliminary thoughts, Mr. Gooden?
You put my full government out there, Matt. Jeez. But yeah, I think Liberty's actually like kind of really good. I really like this Liberty team. Kind of looking at them now, it's at their place. Villanova's unranked, so they're going to be going to Liberty, who's 18-1 at home. I do not think Cam Whitmore or Justin Moore plays in this one. But yeah, they have a top 54 offense and defense. Number 1 team in keeping offensive rebounds away. They chuck up a lot of threes. Darius McGee for Liberty. He's 5'9". He takes almost 40% of his team's shots. That ranks number 2 in the country. Just an absurd stat. They're not really battle tested. Quad 1 and Quad 2 record is 1-5, but they're 26-8 on the year. Like I said, 18-1 at home. Liberty's favored by 1.5. I would take Liberty in the points in this one.
I think Liberty wins. I like Darius McGee. They're a smart team. They play at that slow. It's going to be a slow-paced game. Winners, whoever executes better. That's really just what it is. I think Darius McGee. No Whitmore, no more. I do not think Villanova has the horses to stop Darius McGee. I don't. Yeah. And I picked Liberty to beat Kennesaw State in their conference tournament. I did so fairly confidently, frankly. So I props to Kennesaw State. Prove me wrong. They have a chance to do it again. But I really like this Liberty team. They're smart. They execute. They had a freshman who really stood out in the championship game at Kennesaw State. I like Liberty. I just think Liberty's a well-coached team, smart team. They're a very good team. I got Liberty here.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I think this ends up being Liberty. And should Villanova get through, they'd play either Wisconsin or Bradley in the second round. We'll see if they get to that point. But yeah, I think it's Liberty, and that'll be it for their year 1 of Kyle Neptune. The late game Tuesday night.
There is the one aspect, though. We're all picking Liberty here. There is the one aspect. It's Brandon Slater's last game in a Villanova uniform. It's Caleb Daniels' last game in a Villanova uniform. I mean, the Liberty team has to deal with these guys too. They're not going to go down without swinging. So I'm picking Liberty here, but Villanova, I mean, they're Villanova. I wouldn't be surprised if they won either.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree with that. But yeah, we'll see how that plays out. The other Big East NIT game is going to be the 11 p.m. Eastern game. Seton Hall travels out west at Colorado, making that trip out to Boulder. Man, this is one heck of a late night basketball game on ESPN2. Well, Michael, we'll come to you first. Any thoughts?
So I knew who Villanova played because I'd seen it. I did not know who Seton Hall played, and I looked at the chat and they were like, "We're talking NIT." I'm like, "Do I look?" I'm like, "Nah." The reaction will be raw. It'll be live. Colorado. Oh my goodness, that is a team that they are very hot and cold. They beat Tennessee earlier in the season. At the same time, I feel like they lost to Grambling, so they're hot and cold. KJ Simpson is their best player, I believe. Good lead guard. This game is going to be disgusting. It is. Oh my goodness. Sickos. This game is disgusting.
Yeah, Colorado, the 23rd ranked defense in KenPom. Seton Hall, the 22nd ranked defense. Neither offense is in the top 125.
Yeah, I mean, this is an 11 p.m. game featuring 2 top 25 defenses. I hate this game. This is going to be so stupid. Both teams are so inconsistent. We say it all the time, but literally nothing would surprise me in this one.
Yeah. I'll pick Seton Hall here. Why not? We'll say they're motivated after losing to DePaul and they bounce back and Shaheen Holloway gets things going. Why not?
Seton Hall.
Michael?
I'll take Colorado just to be different.
I like it.
No reason
I don't going against the Big East. But Seton Hall wins. They'd play either New Mexico or Utah Valley.
New Mexico's good.
Yeah, that's
like cards.
You know what? Your NIT champion could come from this group. You never know.
Lobos.
This could be maybe this is the second year in a row and a Big East team wins the NIT. Although we're going to be denied a Villanova UNC title rematch in the NIT. That is frustrating.
Yeah. Very. That would have been a bad day at the Godin household. Let me tell you that much. Don't know my girlfriend. Huge UNC fan. She's distraught. Tyler Nickel just transferred. Justin McCoy, Virginia transfer, is transferring out of UNC now. It's a whole mess.
Yeah. Hey, and speaking of transfers, we're going to wrap up the show here. We got some Big East transfers on their way out. I think almost all of these guys, I think the only transfers we know for sure are Butler and Georgetown at this point. So, Michael, this is all you. What's going on?
Yeah, so I'm not particularly surprised Primo Spears transferred. He planned his birthday party for the Friday at MSG. So he wasn't really locked into winning the Big East tournament, and I don't blame him. He wasn't going to. That being said, Butler Nation is kind of distraught. I'm putting on the fan hat, I got a State of the Union right here. Butler Nation has been distraught. Jaden Taylor left. I've been trying to hint at the fact that there are going to be transfers for this team. I have heard it multiple times from multiple different people. There are going to be transfers. Stuff's going to happen. And losing Jaden Taylor, there's going to be more, not just Pierce Thomas, who fans loved as like someone who could really step up in the next couple of years. And then the Mileses are both gone. There's going to be more. I would not surprise me if there are a couple more guys leaving. But it's a completely new Butler team coming in next year. I really tried to hint at it so many times that guys are going to leave. It's not just going to be like some of the end of the bench guys. There are legit players who are not happy and are going to transfer. If you trust this coaching staff and if you bought in early on, this was going to happen. You get hired in April, late April. That is hard to get on there and hit the transfer portal immediately and get guys in. And some of the guys this year bought in solely because of the name Thad Matta. That is the reason they bought in. They're like, yeah, this guy, he's been doing national championship game. He can coach us up. And season didn't go well, and we knew it was going to go wrong. We knew there were going to be transfers. I really, really tried to hint at it so this didn't hit people like a ton of bricks. But, man, it's rough. Hopefully they hit the portal hard. I can tell you, I know for a fact they've been going at the portal since January. That they've had meetings. They've been looking into it. So they're hitting the portal hard. They know what they need. They know the guys who are in the portal. They know the guys who are some of the guys who are going to be in the portal. And if you have faith in this coaching staff, you had faith a couple months back, you should keep that faith for this offseason. I think this offseason is incredibly important. I think it will define the second Thad Matta tenure at Butler. And if you have faith in this coaching staff, I think you just be patient. We'll get through this offseason. And there are some dudes in the portal. Even right now, there are some dudes.
A record-setting day the first 24 hours here in the portal. Crazy stuff. Time for the Bulldogs to go spelunking in the transfer portal and try to come back with something.
Ugh. Spelunking?
You don't like that word?
No, not at all. That sounds like something else.
Spelunking is exploring a cave, which I feel like works for the transfer portal.
Okay, yeah. I don't like the word itself. I like your use of the word.
Yeah, it sounds odd.
Yeah.
I think the final note we'll say here, we didn't get to talk about it during the Big East tournament because we were too busy with other stuff, but 2 head coaches out. 2 guys we thought would be out. Patrick Ewing, done. Mike Anderson at St. John's, done. We'll start with the Mike Anderson. We'll come back to you on this, Michael, and then we'll come to you, Tommy, for the Georgetown stuff. Get your thoughts there. Sounds like all likelihood Rick Pitino to St. John's is the replacement.
It was always Rick Pitino. Always was Rick Pitino. Man, if you are a team that needs a kick in the butt, Rick Pitino is the guy. You got to bring him in. St. John's hasn't made they made the tournament as a play-in 11, and they lost to Arizona State with Shamori Pons, but they haven't really had sustained success in a while. You get Rick Pitino in there, that's a team that'll be at the top half of the Big East. I have Rick Pitino in a big city. You're talking these two teams are looking to make splashes, and I think it's really good for the Big East as a whole. I think that's the narrative. I think we'll talk about it more when it actually happens, but I think the level in the Big East with Villanova, Jay Wright moved on. Jay Wright was kind of the guy keeping the conference afloat with Villanova being this brand. I think Georgetown and St. John's are making moves to try to bring everybody up with them. I think this is big for the conference.
Well, you say bring everybody up with them. Georgetown becomes interesting because they might be bringing somebody else in the Big East down in the process. Lots of rumors swirling about Ed Cooley to Georgetown. I don't know what to make about them. I think it's hard to parse how much is negotiation, how much is truth. I think it's clear at this point that there is some kind of negotiation going on. You don't get to this point in the process without some discussion having already happened. It's clear Georgetown wants Ed Cooley. Tommy, do you think he ends up there?
I mean, right now, we don't know a whole lot. I think right now it's 50-50. He ends up there. And you know that Georgetown is going to be backing up not 1, not 2, maybe 3 Brinks trucks to Ed Cooley's house, and give him a blank check and whatever he wants to go down there. Another name I heard, Micah Shrewsbury, which would just be outstanding for that Georgetown program. Can't go wrong either way. Who would you guys – this was a fun topic. Who would you rather have at this point, Ed Cooley or Micah Shrewsbury?
If I'm looking at it from I need my team to be good next year. I need just consistency. We need to get back. And I think that's what Georgetown needs. I think the pick is Cooley. But if I'm talking long-term upside, I think Shrewsbury's the pick. I think with Cooley, you kind of have there is a ceiling built in. I think with someone like Shrewsbury, with what he did with this Penn State team, they weren't anything special coming into the season. I love Jalen Pickett. I loved him entering the season. They destroyed my Bulldogs game 2. That game was much closer, the score was much closer than it should have been. I like this Penn State team. I think they're good, and he made the tournament with them. He made a run in the Big Ten tournament. There is a ceiling with Shrewsbury. He is a very good mind. He is going places as a coach. But if I'm Georgetown, I need someone who can get this team right now, and I need someone who has local recruiting connections. The 2024 class in DC is incredible. You need to get some of those dudes, and you need to get them at Georgetown, build that pipeline back up, and that builds the team back up in turn. So if I'm looking at that from just the job itself perspective, Ed Cooley has to be the pick, but Shrewsbury's a good candidate.
Yeah, and I think Ed Cooley helps you with the other stuff. Georgetown's had issues with relevance there, not even being covered in their own local papers, and Ed Cooley fixes that immediately. He's a great media relations guy. He's a great ambassador for the school, which I think they're also looking for here, and they're trying to not just rebuild a team, but rebuild a brand, and I think Ed Cooley is really, really, really good for that. Maybe the best. If he's on the market, he might be the best guy on the market for doing that specifically. So we'll see if they have the money to make it happen. We'll see if Ed Cooley is actually listening to offers or if he just wants a little raise or some improvements up at Providence and he's using this for leverage. You got a first-year AD, a new president there. So he just won a Naismith Award. He could see an opportunity to make himself a little bit more money and stay at home doing it here. We'll see how it plays out. We might know Friday night or Saturday, depending on what happens with Providence. Might have to wait a couple weeks. We will see. I think that's going to do it for this episode, though. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Go Cats, baby. Villa nationally invited. We're going to cut down those nets.
I made my Ed Cooley. I had my Ed Cooley bit earlier just to try to incite Matt, and he didn't bite, so I'm not going to try to do it again.
I'm off the ledge now.
Hey, Matt, who do you have Providence playing in the national championship?
I haven't gotten that far. I haven't decided who they're playing yet.
Matt just click.
That's the only one I have locked in.
Yeah. The rest of this bracket's empty right now. He just says Providence national championship.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, we'll see how this plays out. Good luck to everybody with their brackets. Check out our bracket challenge. You can enter. Winner is going to get a nice Road to the Garden T-shirt. So make sure you jump in that.
Or Matt's
Michael
laptop.
DeRosa.
Perfect.
And my laptop. Yes. That's Michael DeRosa. That's Tommy Godin. I'm Matt St. Jean. Subscribe on YouTube, wherever you're listening to this. Read our blog, and I don't know when our next show is going to be. Probably next Monday. So we will see you then. And thanks for listening.